So hello, everybody. This presentation is about Google Summer of Code for university students or open source organizations. So this is something I think we all know about, but what is open source? So computer software that you can modify, study, change, and it has to have a special license. There are a few ones that allows your code to be open source. Open source also promotes collaboration, many people doing stuff around the world, and a community of dedicated developers on one open source stack. So I'm having a fancy issue because telling that kind of stuff to you, it seems to be simple because I'm pretty sure you all know these things. So what is Google Summer of Code? Google Summer of Code is an online international program designed to encourage student participation in open source software development with the guidance of mentors from the open source community. So online and worldwide. So thank you to this. We haven't had problems with the pandemic, not too much this year, because we are already an online program since the beginning. So GSOC, students participate with many different open source organizations that have many mentors, and they also earn a little stipend on the summer if they successfully complete their projects. The most important thing is I always say, is about the experience. So the students usually at the university do not have a real world experience, and GSOC usually gives them the opportunity to be on the real world and start to use that kind of technologies, that something like testing, working with a large data code base and so on, and they gain confidence in their capabilities because, on the university, they give you plenty of stuff, but sometimes not the right thing, or the real world stuff. So the program has this goal. So introduce students to open source, help open source project, that's very important, bringing new excited developers to stay after the program ends. So not only for the students, but also for the open source organizations, giving that a real world exposure to the students, and create more open source code for all to use. So GSOC has this kind of agenda. Since I will show you then the dates for this 2021, but for starting is at some moment Google opens to open source organizations around the world that can apply to be mentor organizations. So at some moment in March or February, Google chooses the organizations. Last year in 2020, we were 100, almost 200 organizations from all the world. So after this, students start to look at what organizations are this year on the GSOC, and then they submit their proposals to the mentor organizations. After this, mentor organizations take a look at the different projects from the students, and they choose which ones will accept. And finally, when the accepted students are announced by Google, because it's Google who has the last word, they are paired with a mentor from every organization, and the mentor will help them through their project. So around June, the coding begins, because this is Google's Summer of Code. This usually happens in summer, but of course, summer in the upper part of the world. In the south part of the world, it's winter, Summer of Code, and the coding begins. Usually, it takes 3 months, but this year Google changes, and it's only half of this. So usually was 350 hours, almost 3 months, and now Google has made some changes this year, and the projects will have to take around 175 hours, or around 10 weeks. Some folks will take more, so some folks will take a little bit less. So the question is, I am new to open source, can I participate? And the answer always is yes, of course. You have to understand what the program is about, and at least you have to have some university level programming, because you will need already a good knowledge of the different kind of language development languages that the different organizations use. Every organization has use different programming languages, but you need to have a higher level, I would say. If you are on the first year of your degree, it's not possible that you succeed on making a real program project. So the students have to pass some evaluations. This year also this is changed. They are going to have 2 evaluations only, When the student passes an evaluation, that is simply some kind of, it's not real an exam, but it's something that reviewing how it's been his first weeks of work, both from the student, the mentors, and Google. If they pass, they get the money, half of the money that they get from Google as a stipend for their work. And at the conclusion, there's the second evaluation, and the students that submit their code, they write it, and they will get the second part of the money. So eligibility, you have to be, to apply to Google as a student, Google Summer of Code, over 18. You have to be in a accepted post-secondary educational program. This is something that also has changed this year due to the pandemics, because usually you have to be on a university and you have to be able to show up that you have you are studying on a university. But this year Google has opened a little bit the window. This is very nice. If, for example, if you are following some online courses of the many there are, like, I don't know, there are plenty of different platforms for online education. Google will also accept this if those are a high level degree of students. So you also have to be eligible to work in the country in which you reside. Imagine that there might be some countries that you have to be more than 80 to work, 18. And 1 second. And you have to be accepted not more than one another previous GSOC, because that means that you maybe 1 year you've been accepted, you can apply for a second GSOC, but not for a third. And also, this is a question of internal politics of the company, and I would say of US. You cannot be a resident on some US embargoed country like Iran or Cuba, or some countries that Google can have a relationship to the law, US law. So this is the program timeline for this year. Still February 19, and at the end of January, the organizations, open source organizations, apply to this platform Google has. It's a website, everything is online. And then I always like to know that they knock on the Google door and say, hey, I am whatever kind of open source organization, and I want to have this summer students for me. And then Google studies your proposals. You also have to present to Google some ideas. How do you do that stuff? How you will deal with the students and so on. And then in March, Google will show up what organizations are announced. Past year, as I said, it was something like 200. This year, we suppose it's going to be a little bit more organizations. We never know how many will be accepted. But the question is that almost usually 50% of the organizations are new every year, because Google wants to enlarge the quantity of organizations working on GSOC. So they change plenty of organization health, and there are plenty of new organizations every year. So between March and the end of March and April, students have to submit their proposals. Again, the proposals that the students have to submit are again some of the ideas the different organizations have on his web page for projects they want to do. Imagine you are I don't know, whatever, an artificial intelligence code company, a company in an organization that want to make some kind of special library to recognize, I don't know why. So you will see on his webpage these ideas, and then the students have to apply to these ideas, or even they can present new ideas to the organizations. So in May, around mid-May, Google says that which one students have been accepted, and then there is what we call the community bonding period. This period is 1 month less this year, less than a month, that the students start to talk with their mentors, to say what's going to be the method, the methodology you are going to follow for the internship. So-called internship is not real an internship, because Google will not have you on the payroll. It will be some kind of money they give you, but not for work. And then from June 7 to August 23, you have to code. Students have to code. And at the end of August, the final successful students are announced. So a little bit of statistics. 16 years of Google Summer of Code. Alessandro told that I've been for many years. That's true. That's my 11th year on this project, this program, Google Summer of Code program. More than 16,000 students from more than 100 countries, most of them from India, from US and Germany. And then more than 38 millions of code have been produced. That's amazing. So the best way to know about Google Summer of Code is just go to your Chrome browser and type Google Summer of Code, and they will show you up the main page of the Google Summer of Code program, and you can read everything here. So I'm going to go fast. I don't know how much time. I think I have 10 minutes still. I want to show you also a little bit of my experience, my own personal experience to share with you about GSOC. I manage a open source organization called the Liquid Galaxy. That is more than words. Let me show you some pictures. Most of the Googlers that are attending this or have seen this kind of stuff in their offices around the world. So the Liquid Galaxy is a cluster of computers and screens that involves you. It's some kind of immersive installation. It's a cluster because we run different computers for every screen, and then also we run a cluster. They move all together. So what we show here is maps, and usually we work with Google Earth, but we can work with maps or with any other mapping software. We have plenty of them. So those are simple photos of past installations. You can see this is from Google I/O 2012. We call this Batman version. But look at this one. We have this in Paris working. It's on the floor, very large one. We have this on I don't remember, Pennsylvania University in US. Plenty of screens on the wall. And as you can see, it's something like a video wall. There is plenty of screens this is not an image, a larger image, but every screen has full HD resolution, so you're seeing a very, very large resolution image, and this is Google Earth. So you appreciate the details of the terrain and whatever you're looking at in an immersive way. This is something on a desk, and I'm going to spend 1 minute to show you what is the largest installation we have, because it's amazing. I will wait till you can see it. I don't know if the sound is going to work, but in the same. This installation is installed in the Google headquarters in Mountain View in a building called Partnerplex building. And this is the largest installation we have developed. It's not running on monitors, it's running on projectors. It is not 4, but 8 different projectors, 2 for each screen you see, 2 for each wall on the floor. And imagine you stay here and you can fly around the world. Also, the name of this installation is Google they call it holodeck, because it's something like in Star Trek. You can move to any place in the world and have a really immersive installation. This is the biggest one we have. So let me try to go to the next slide here. So one thing is the project, and the other thing is the community. We are a community. We are the GTG, so we have in that case an open source community, world community called Liquid Galaxy project. We have plenty of students, mentors, and other kind of people in our community. Here are some of the photos. We have hundreds, more than 100 people. And then also, I personally, what I do is in 2011, I create a laboratory for working on this here in my hometown in Lleida, Spain. More than 100 students have come to these installations. I will show you a few pictures. They develop their own projects around that technology, and also, there is people doing degrees on the university or other stuff, and they also have at some time Google accept those students for having a GSOC internship. Those are students. I always try, as you know, to have girls in our projects. It's hard to achieve, but I try. This is our installation. We have plenty of screens and computers. There's many students here. This is the largest one we have. It weighs a ton, 1,000 kilos. It's an amazingly big installation. And then I want to show you, those were the students of this year for our organization, Liquid Galaxy. And it was half women. Never we have this rate. I mean, it was hard, but also this year we have 4 men and 4 women. Amazing. And our mentors, and most of them are GTG Spain leads. Very nice. So some kind of projects we did this year. You can see something based on Android, using Android, or something different projects using TensorFlow for gesture control of the Liquid Galaxy, or seeing different kind of information on the screens. And then also we have more laboratories. After I created in 2011 the Liquid Galaxy Lab, we have another one in Brazil, in Sorocaba. We have another one in Australia, in Sydney. We have another one in New York, in Manhattan. And as Alessandro said, I've been doing this talk forever in many different countries and universities and places. And also only a few words about another, like Google Summer of Code project. Google canceled this year. It's sad, but it's what happens. It was called Google Coding, and it was for students, not for university students, but for students from 13 to 17 years old. And it was not focused on coding because of this age, maybe you don't know how to code. So they can do coding, documents, outreach, quality assurance, and also design. And also the project were not 3 months project, but also but instead will be 3 to 6 hours, little bit-sized tasks. Let me show you some. Those were design. The students designed that kind of stuff. Leaflets, some 3D stuff, and also the most important thing, they do more than 150 Liquid Galaxy installations. It was 2 years ago, last Christmas. 150 Liquid Galaxy installations on virtual machines. The portal you're seeing, the laptop you're seeing has 3 VMs running Google Earth. And also, this is also a picture I like always, is we do plenty of stuff with Arduino, and the students develop systems to control the Liquid Galaxy with Arduino. You see here a globe, and you move the fingers and your hand, and then the Google Earth moves. And there is also ultrasonic sensors or buttons or many different kinds of control the Liquid Galaxy. And also from this Google Coding, what it appears, it was a podcast. And we have a podcast with these very young students. Most of them are 13, 14 years old from different places of the world. Here we can see Emily from Vancouver, Canada, Merul from India, Janiru from Sri Lanka, Jan from Spain. And we have, in every chapter, we have different people, and it's very nice. So we keep the community going. And as a recap, I will tell you that if you are an organization, you have a group of people, an organization, it can be a legal organization, but it can be also simply that you have developed some kind of code, and it has to be an open source code. It has to have an open source license. You can apply to be a mentor organization to Google, okay? Even if you are a very small organization, you can apply because it's cheap, it's free. You go there and knock the door of Google and say, okay, Google, I am this organization, I have this software, I want to have interns in summer for developing more of my project, please. And Google will see. But in the very beginning, you have the no, and the only thing is that you can win for yes. So apply as organizations, and as students is simply, if you don't want to spend your summer doing almost nothing, and you want to do you write code and also open source code, so apply for Google Summer of Code and spend a different summer. So this is the recap for eligibility for organizations, student eligibility, and the most important thing is that don't be shy, because you can go in the project. I have some people in the program call me mentor of mentors. So I mentor plenty of organizations entering the Google Summer of Code, and it's not an impossible question. So if you're a student, or if you have students in your community, or if you have an open source code and you want to have more students that are doing good for you, so apply. It's easy. It's everything explained on the website, and this is it. I'm going to stop sharing the screen.
Thanks, Andrea. And I think the presentation has been like super clear, because we don't have many questions. But maybe I will ask the audience, like, have you already taken part in a Google Summer of Code? Do you have any experience that you want to share as well? We're really open here, so. Or tell us if you would like to take part in a Google Summer of Code, or if you're thinking about that.
I remember there are plenty of GDG groups that have some kind of code. Maybe they have developed in a hackathon, or maybe they have. I remember a colleague, Kevin Simpler, that has this application to many codes on GitHub, public code. So if you have some kind of code and you want to make it to have a community around this code and to have your code grown, and maybe you don't have enough time, it's a very simple way to do it, because you just apply it to Google. Google maybe say no, it can happen, of course, but it's a way to have I would say developers not for free, because they get paid from Google, but also they have there are students and they have this very nice opportunity of broadening his experience, not the experience that the university gives you, but a real world experience, and it's very nice.
That's great. And Leonardo is saying that he kind of never understood how it works, but thanks to you and to this session, he understood now. And
Thank you, Leonardo. Thank you, Laura. No problem. So if you have any, I am always open. You can look at me at many different networks. I'm usually Andrew Ibanez. And if you have any kind of question, or maybe you want to apply as a student or as an organization, please do not be shy. Don't be shy, and send me an email or a DM in Twitter, and I will answer you and try to help you on to go into the program. The final word is from Google, not from mine, but I help plenty of organizations around the world to go into the program, and believe me, even so small companies or groups with a little piece of code, they just know about the GSOC. They know the Google store, and they have a full community around, people from around the world working on their code, and their code grows and grows, and it's an amazing experience.
That's fantastic. Thanks a lot, Andreu, for joining us and for again promoting this great initiative. So if we don't have any other questions, I will thank everyone for joining this session and for joining the summit.